next stop on today's show, we head back to the house and to the Garden Wise property where we have gotten our wonderful load of Cosmos compost to plant all our wonderful annuals that are coming from proven winners. They came from Michigan, all the way from Michigan, from 4-Star Greenhouses, a grower of proven winners plants. Hello, I'm Arlena and this is Garden Wise. On today's show, I'm going to speak to you about using annuals in the garden. Normally, when I speak about annuals, we speak about them in like these containers, these gorgeous containers here. But annuals are not just for container gardens. They're actually a way we can add a splash to the garden that is going to give us some color throughout the season. Now, your perennial gardens sometimes have down times. You have some time between your spring flowering plants and your summer flowering plants. So why not add annuals to the garden? That's going to give us some color throughout the season in between the perennial bloom. Now, first things first, I wanted to add some color to my hosta garden, so I have these wonderful plants here that Proven Winners sent me. They're impatiens. Impatiens is a wonderful way to add color to an area that gets either filtered sun or mostly shade. Now, in my bed, I have filter sun, so that's going to be perfect. Now, I start out by placing my impatiens. This is the Acapulco White Double Impatiens. All the doubles look like little roses and are going to make a wonderful addition to this hosta bed. I love to add New Guinea impatiens because the leaf has wonderful accents. Let's talk a little bit about annuals in our containers. Planting our antiques is a fun way to add some interest to the garden. This wheelbarrow has been in my family for a lot of years, and I have a couple more that I plant with annuals every single year. Normally, I like to plant an array and a different assortment, but in the past few years, I've chosen to use either wave petunias or super petunias is what I'm going to use this season. Now, these are proven winners, Super Petunia Sangria Charm. Aren't they gorgeous? Now, this wheelbarrow will usually take 1 or 2 plants. These are quite large plants, so we're going to only put 2 because each one of these plants are going to get massive and hang over the edge. Now, normally I just put petunias in here and it does get beautiful, but this year I thought I'd use a potato vine. The Proven Winners potato vines are absolutely spectacular nowadays, and this is Illusion Emerald Lace, and I'm going to use her on the edge so that she flows over. Now, at the bottom of my wheelbarrow, there are several holes. If you find one that doesn't have holes in it, make sure you get a pick or something, a drill, have your husband or yourself get a hammer and put some holes in the bottom. I know it's tough, but you need to have holes. Rock or gravel will not cut it for you because container gardens heat up, so they need more moisture and they need good drainage. So a few holes in the bottom with some rocks over the top to not allow the soil to go through is perfect. I love an all-purpose potting soil that has a slow-release fertilizer in it. I make sure and wet my mix before I put it in my containers so our wheelbarrow is ready to go. All we really need to do is put in our plants. with just a little drink and a double dose of Annie Haven's wonderful manure tea, we're good to grow. Now, in this one here, I have what we call an Upsy Daisy. Now, I've been using this gal, Upsy Daisy. They come in orange and they come in black. And an Upsy Daisy is just another way to help when you plant so that you don't have to use so much soil. It's called an Upsy Daisy, and I'll give you that link as well. It's a great thing. Now, my Upsy Daisy goes inside here, and then I fill it with soil. Again, we're going to use a mix that's very well, a good drain mix, not straight from the garden, but a mix that we know is going to stay very, very light for us and has a slow release fertilizer. That's what I like to use. So with this Upsy Daisy in here, I don't have to use as much soil. And I have pre-watered my mix again so that I can put my plants into something that's already really nice and moist. So let's get these containers full. Again, when using antiques, make sure that the bottom has a hole in it to ensure good drainage. Now this one as well, we're going to put an Upsy Daisy in. It's a large container. It's going to be very, very heavy to move around, but with an Upsy Daisy, it allows us the ability to not to have to add so much soil. Saves us money and saves us maintenance on having to move them around. I don't normally like short-handled shovels like this one, but Corona sent it to me to try out. And I'm really thinking I like her. She's not one of the heaviest shovels, but she has a nice short handle because sometimes when I'm planting in the garden, those tall handles make my back hurt a little bit, and because I'm so long here, so this short handle has been really nice, and it's really nice to use for filling these containers. Okay, now we have our containers ready. I want to remember to choose a plant for the right location. That is #1 key, and don't mix and match. For instance, sometimes when you see a container garden, you see pansies in the center with a marigold on the outside. How is that going to work? It's not. In the spring, your pansy is going to be beautiful, your marigold is going to suffer. In the summer, your pansy is going to die because it doesn't like the sun, and your marigold is going to be happy. So don't mix and match. Use plants that are for sun and use plants that are for shade for the containers in the area that you want to place them. Okay, first things first. Here's some of the things that I'm going to be using. This is Angel Face Blue. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, what I have found is she is an annual, yes, but when put into the garden to add some color, placed in the ground rather than in containers, she does reseed and she comes back in a different form. And verbena is one of my absolute favorites to use in a sun container. They'll take afternoon shade, but make sure you at least have half a day sun. And then of course we have my Goldilocks rocks. This is a Biddens. That is one of my favorites. I love her, and you're going to love her too. Now this one I thought we would do just a little bit differently. I've got verbena. I love to use verbena in containers, but they like full sun, so make sure, because otherwise if you put them in half-day sun, which they'll take half-day sun as long as it's a hot day sun, but if you don't put them in half-day sun, you'll end up with them sugging out in the center and they die out and they get yucky looking and leggy. Make sure you put them in full sun. They love it, and make sure they get enough moisture, otherwise they do tend to crisp up. So that's the two best things for them: full sun and plenty of moisture. Okay, again, I'm going to use some of these Super Bells. This is Super Bells Blue, again from Proven Winners. They've come out with so many wonderful Super Bells, and they're great for the edge because they'll flow over and give you a nice little cascade look. Again, these are pretty large containers, so I'm just going to use one, this one, right near the edge. And again, what's really nice is I've got my Upsy Daisy in there, so it holds the soil, you know, from going way to the bottom, so I don't have to have all that soil in there. So it's going to make it nicer. Okay, Superbena, which is going to be coral, red color, almost a pinkish right now. So that's going to be nice. Then I'm going to put another one of these wonderful babies in. This is the Proven Winners Angel Face Pink. If you haven't used Angel Face, I suggest you do. She's sweet, she's dainty, and she does beautiful full sun to part shade again. And she's tall, so I'm going to stick her in the center just to give me some luscious spike. In the center. There we go. And don't be afraid to stick them down a little bit farther in the soil to give them some really good start. There she goes. Now let's use the Angel Face. This is Angel Face Wedgwood Blue from Proven Winners. Absolutely gorgeous. Give us a lot of color and a lot of spike in the center. And you're thinking, goodness gracious, she's using a lot of plants for that container. Well, the idea about container gardening is to give us lots of color right away. Here in zone 4-5, we don't have all summer to waste. We want color right away. Start in the spring and go till fall. Now, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to use a potato vine in here. What do you think? Actually, I'm going to keep her more dainty than that, so I'm not going to use a potato vine. But what I am going to use is I'm going to use some of these blue super bells. So we have pink and blues in this one. That's going to be my theme of her. Isn't that going to be pretty? She'll come over right over the edge. Actually, I better move her over a little bit because that verbena is going to take up a lot of room. So let's stick her over here some so she has her own place in her pot. Perfect. And I'm also going to use another Bidden's Goldilocks Rocks. You're going to hear a lot of that from me today, only because it's one of my absolute favorites. She does so beautifully. Usually we get our yellows from our marigolds and things like that, coreopsis, a perennial coreopsis, but marigolds for an annual give us a wonderful yellow. Bidden's Goldilocks Rocks gives us a beautiful yellow, and she is so very wonderful. So dig her down inside. Make sure we cover the root ball with soil. That's like the biggest thing. It's better for them to have to come and climb out a little bit than be poked up in that container, and then they don't get enough moisture on them. They won't do well. Poke them down deep. Okay, there she goes. She's going to be beautiful. I'll give you a couple. Now this, let's see, I think I'm going to use lots of coleus. Again, this is a Proven Winners coleus, and it is Gay's Delight coleus. Isn't she beautiful? And this is the Color Blaze Kingswood Torch. Lots of red going on there and maroon. She'll really be nice with this cobalt blue container. And again, I'm going to put in a Bidden's Goldilocks Rocks. I know I use it a lot, but she's absolutely gorgeous. Either that, or should we use a red verbena? That would be pretty. Let's use red verbena. So in goes our coleus. I'll keep it to the side. And she also has an Upsy Daisy in her, so her soil is just deep enough for these plants, but it's not overbearing as far as it's not going to be really heavy. And I didn't have to use a lot of soil. So in the back side, again planting them deep. And always remembering, coleus love to be pinched. So if there's a leaf that doesn't look quite right, get it out of there. If this plant, for instance, seems to be a little tall for this container, or for what I like as far as it to be as healthy as it should be, I'm going to give her a pinch. Now, you can take this and you can put it in a little sand and you can make yourself a couple more. And you might have thought, oh my gosh, that was so drastic. But I'm telling you right now, if you do that right now when you bring them home from the garden center, if they're a little bit leggy because they've been stuck together a little bit too long or something, if you pinch them off, all these little babies are just going to fill right out. And okay, now red verbena in the front, what do you say? Again, these are very large containers of verbena. You can find them in smaller containers. But these are going to be pretty right away. And I don't have time to waste. I'm a busy lady. Pull the soil to the side. and then drop her in and press. Hee. Here we go. Now, when you look at your plants, have you noticed that sometimes they have a front and a back to them? And I think that's the way that they grow in the centers. But you know what? This one does. And so I'm pulling her up and I'm turning her around to give her the cascade look. And you're saying, oh, well, she'll probably switch on her own, but she's an annual. She is only going to give me color and love for the season. So I want it perfect right away. It's the difference between annuals and perennials. Perennials, you have time because you have the next season. Annuals, I don't. Okay, my verbena, my coleus are going to be nice and fluffy. Ha! I'm thinking we still have room for Goldilocks rocks. Never enough Goldilocks rocks. So we're going to stick her in there. If you'd like more information on what you've seen on today's show or any other show, log on to our website, gardenwiseliving.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We're at Green Blessings. Don't forget to garden wise.